Our big hypothesis is the Canadian labor market, and I hate saying resources and labor, but the people in Canada are severely undervalued. We've got a ton of amazing people who have done amazing things, have amazing experiences and amazing work ethics, and they're not being utilized. That is also one thing we want to contribute and give back is we want to make an amazing company where Canadians can come in, they can work and deliver what they want to do and give us a bit of their passion and then go home and live an amazing life as a result. We really want to provide an opportunity for people.
Welcome to the CTRL ALT GAB podcast, where we sit down with tech founders to break down how they scale, pivot, and grow. I'm your host, Gabrielle Walthers. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the CTRL ALT GAB podcast. Today, we are joined by the CEO and co-founder of Symmetry Commerce, the wonderful Mike Kiss, which is the name of a rock star. It just sounds very, I'm on stage playing the guitar. So thank you so much for having that name, joining us here today on the show. We're excited to have you and chat about your company and what growth and scaling has looked like so far. So thanks for hopping on with us.
Well, thanks for having me. And my name was cool after I turned 12. Before, like, I'll just say kids are mean and I'll leave it at that.
No. Yeah, that's tough. Tell your childhood friends that they suck and your name's cool. Well, to kick things off here, Mike, I know that you were with Shopify for many years and you made the leap from Shopify to start your own adventure with Symmetry Commerce. You mentioned that you were working at Shopify with a lot of really large enterprise level clients, which is a pretty safe and secure gig, it sounds like. So to leave that and hop into the world of challenges and unknown is a big one. Walk us through what led you to leaping out on your own and starting your own company and what the early days looked like for you in Symmetry.
Yeah. So I got very, very lucky joining a small Canadian startup called Shopify. Probably, I think that was about 9 years ago. I got the job, started working in a very small office. There were around 60 employees total. And on my team of 4, just, hey, figure this stuff out. I got very, very lucky with an internship a while back. I implemented SAP in gold mines. So I got to learn about like how finance is connected to procurement, connected to fulfillment. I didn't know it would be so closely related to e-commerce, but as I got into Shopify, I started using these skills and naturally I started getting selected to, okay, we've got this company, they're using SAP. How can we integrate Shopify into it? I got brought into the room. And that's where I started to get this experience with super huge merchants at Shopify. Eventually got very lucky again with some of the opportunities I worked. I ended up leading 4 teams. I had about 45 people under me and I was working in professional services. So basically almost an internal agency at Shopify. It's very restricted, so they don't compete with their partner program. But I was in a meeting with the chief revenue officer and a few of the other higher level executives, and they're talking about the Shopify partner ecosystem, all the agencies. That's going to be our bread and butter. We're going to invest heavily in there. And so I started doing some thinking about what my career trajectory looked like at Shopify. It was kind of cresting, had conversations with my leadership. Okay, 2 to 3 years, you'll become a director, then 2 to 3 more years, become a VP. And that seemed a little slow for me. And I got to thinking, I called my now co-founder and I said, I think there's a ton of investment going over there. We should jump. It's never going to be a good time to do this. Let's do it. So we both have, between us, my co-founder and I, 4 kids, all under 2 at the time. And we did it. We quit. Gave lots of notice, really appreciative. Nothing pushed us out the door. It was a pull towards the opportunity. We started Symmetry Commerce. In the first couple weeks, wild. I was no longer Mike from Shopify. It was now Mike with what do I name the company and how do I actually create a corporation? So figuring out all those things. And then slowly our first opportunity we started to work on, $2,000. We'll build this person I know a website, a personal trainer that I knew from high school. And okay, then another one came along, then some consulting, and then, okay, I've got way too much work. Let's go hire someone. And then the momentum really started. Very, very scary to sum it up and exciting and all the feelings.
Yeah, that's wild timing. But I think being able to step out with a co-founder gives you that extra level of dedication because now you're doing it for yourself. You want it to work out for your family, for your co-founder, for his family as well. I think that can be incredibly motivating. And just hearing the differences between solo founders and co-founder journeys, it's great to have that, just as a human, that level of support from someone else going through the same thing. So yeah, that's insanely valuable. And I'm curious too, like leaping out of Spotify into a similar but different
Shopify.
Sorry, did I say Spotify?
Yeah, it happens all
crazy.
the time.
Do you do that? Do people do that a lot?
So the
It's
worst
so different.
People do it a lot. The worst example was we brought in a vendor. This was when we were setting up the Ontario Cannabis Store. So we were working with the LCBO, and if anyone's been through the vendor procurement process for a government entity, it is arduous. And we were responsible for not only implementing their Shopify and commerce stack, we were also responsible for building up their ERP. So we brought in another company to build up their Microsoft Dynamics 365 instance for the new organization. And the vendor we brought in kept Spotify. And all of us are just like, please stop.
Please, no. I didn't even notice that I said Spotify. Please continue to correct me if I keep calling it Spotify. Shopify. Leaving from Shopify and going into a similar but different solution. Obviously, a much different scale, different service offering and stuff like that. But how did your background in Shopify, other than deeply understanding the problem you were trying to solve and knowing where the investment is, a lot of those pieces help with the early stages? There's less risk because you can predict some of these things based on the level of info that you had. But other than those big, glaringly obvious things, how did your background in Shopify really aid in your ability to get Symmetry up and running?
Yeah, so a big part of it is Shopify has an amazing onboarding process, amazing support, amazing documentation, but it can only be so good. There's a lot of undocumented solutions, a lot of things that you just figure out as you're working there, working with what they call merchants, which is their customers. And so we have a lot of that knowledge, that specialized knowledge that's just been acquired over years and we've gotten from the company. That was one of our visionary components of building Symmetry as well, is 90% of my staff is former Shopify. We hire almost exclusively ex-Shopify folk because they have that knowledge and that background. To give you an example, one of our front-end developers was working on an implementation for a B2B client, very atypical buying experience. They wanted an Excel sheet, is how they described their website. And he was like, oh yeah, this is how you hijack Shopify search and we can implement it into the Excel sheet and make the experience wonderful. And I asked Mark, is that documented? He said, no, just like had to do it a couple times and talked to this person and figured it out. So that's how we've used the expertise learned at Shopify, is we understand that there's stuff behind that's not public facing, and how can we use that to give our clients pretty unique and scalable solutions. And then the second thing is also the relationship component. I've been on the procurement side. I have purchased different vendors, different services, different technologies. And so I kind of know what Shopify is looking for. And I've geared Symmetry Commerce to, okay, we're all full-time employees with benefits, and we have a couple of other things that we do. So when Shopify is looking to partner with someone, we look really, really attractive and just look like an extension of their team. We have not much competition or competitive components built into the company. And what I mean by that is we're Shopify only. We do not work with any of their competition. So they're really, really happy to work with us, and they actually invest in us and try to help us grow.
That's awesome. Did you have like a lot of really great connections from leaving Spotify that no.
Caught yourself.
No, Shopify. From having such a good relationship and a good experience working there, and then branching out on your own, having those good relationships, is that really what facilitated the support that you've gotten from Shopify? And how pivotal has that connection been to you for just the successes that you've been able to have early on?
Yeah, it's been something we've actively thought about and really been very strategic in the way we approach, because to answer your question outright, yes, extremely valuable. But if I were to graph out the value, it diminishes over time. People move into new roles, they move into new companies. So we always have thought about it as an expiring asset. It was very, very helpful in the beginning. It's still very helpful today, but we've already seen some of those people we knew really well and we worked with, they've gone on to bigger and better places. So really key into leaning in our first stages. And now we're starting to get away from, my co-founder's name is Io. So the Mike and Io company, to Symmetry Commerce that does really good work and does these things for clients.
Yeah, definitely. And how has your strategy been with trying to scope in that sunsetting of that connection and the value and the importance perhaps that you place on it as that relationship starts to become, like you said, less and less prevalent and critical? How are you replacing the function that relationship served?
Yeah, I don't know if everyone does it, but one of the things we found really successful is just being curious. We've worked with a couple other companies in our space that don't seem to do that. We have a Shopify representative, a partner manager that we connect with every 2 weeks. We always ask questions, just how's it going? What's the organization doing? How is leadership viewing this exercise that we saw rolled out 3 weeks ago? Is it successful? What are you seeing in the background? And we try to basically understand where the organization is going through a few different people that we still know, and just every touch point seeing how things are going. And we find that other companies have treated the service that Shopify provides to partners as just that. And they say, what do I do? Where do I go? And they get marching orders, and then they get sidelined when something works or doesn't work. But we try to get the insight and say, okay, is this like a serious thing that is never going to change? Or is this in an experimental phase and we should lean in, but be ready if the rug gets pulled out from under us next quarter? So that's kind of how we've transitioned to it is, okay, we have all the inner workings and knowledge over at Shopify, and we understand the background and who the players are. Now we have to go discover that and figure that out for ourselves instead of just being in it.
Yeah. And there's also a lot of value in not just assuming knowledge from somebody else and being able to go and form your own observations and inform your strategies independent of the influence of a different organization, because perhaps you're able to see something new and innovative that someone else missed. That's always important. And I find as well, when people align themselves too much with a partner or another company, it can get a little echo chambery, which is never a good thing. So that's great. And and I think too, like that partnership is going to bring you a lot of growth assets. There is always another side to the story. There's always a positive for being a bit more independent and doing things a bit more autonomously as well. We are in Canada, so I do want to talk a little bit about the cannabis client, the government of Canada, really, that you had with Shopify, and the size and the scale of that project and the amount of work that you did there as well. This is a very Canadian context because I know that cannabis is not legal everywhere. So to our international listeners, I'm sorry. But walk us through what that project taught you about complex problems, large clients, enterprise clients, scalability, because the cannabis industry is new in Canada, ultimately, in the grand scheme of the world. And engaging with new industries that are that seismic is probably a very educational experience.
Yes.
Curious what your takeaways from that have been.
Yeah. How long do we have? I'll keep it as short as possible. The experience was incredible. I won the lottery in terms of the knowledge I gained and what I learned. And also, fun fact, my co-founder, that's how we really started working together. He was also on the cannabis teams. It started off as hey, we're going to respond to this RFP and see where it goes. And it turned into, okay, we're prime on the contract for British Columbia, which is our most western province here in Canada, Ontario, which is kind of the large main province, not quite on the East Coast, but more central. We also did have Atlantic Canada as well, so PEI in Newfoundland. And it was all about working with these governments to responsibly bring this substance to the public and align with all of the goals of cannabis legalization. So we want to lower crime rate, we want to increase safety rate, make sure things are safe, there's no mold in it. And so what it really taught us and what we've taken into the company is working with those enterprises with a large amount of visibility, because they're public entities as well, is digging into the requirements and making sure that they're tested and have fallbacks depending on all of the wonderful things that could happen legislatively. To give you an example of the scale, I'll pull out one of the hard things we had to do. It's called the LDB, the Liquor Distribution Board of British Columbia. They're the centralized seller who is responsible for delivering cannabis online for the province. British Columbia has very strict personally identifiable information laws and regulations. And at the time of this recording, cannabis is still federally illegal in the States. So the border, anything on that front, it is illegal. It is legalized in states. British Columbia had a requirement that no personally identifiable information in transit or at rest could cross the border. So we had to work with vendors to lease a fiber optic physical connection from the server in Kamloops over to the data center in Toronto, so that anytime someone bought cannabis and it was recorded as a Shopify order, it never left the country. That data never left the country. It had to all be going through this fiber optic connection. So as you can imagine, there's probably a bunch of logistical things that we had to go through to make sure, okay, what happens when Gabrielle places an order? What servers does it hit? How does it get routed? If that fiber optic connection is severed by a storm or a rogue tractor trailer or something like that, will it accidentally get routed through the States, which will then cause us to be out of compliance and create a political nightmare? We had to think of all of those different things and make sure we were buttoned up from every single aspect. So what it means on the Symmetry Commerce side, taking a look at it, is we try to think behind the initial requirements. Okay, at requirement 1, data can't leave. What are all the subsequent requirements that come up, and think through all the scenarios, and then we can actually build something that is robust and scalable.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it allows you to be very adaptive to, that's a ludicrous requirement that even the information has to be strictly remaining up north. But I think too, I don't want not to make it political, but with the volatility of a lot of what's happening right now, I think it's led to resistance to change, a lot of non-risk taking, because it's hard to predict how these things are going to change and how it's going to impact business. And so I think having that experience in a bit more of a politically charged and specific industry allows you to scope into your business, like how you would deal with kind of ridiculous policies if they are to come up and impact you. Like those are things that a lot of people, if they haven't ever had to deal with it, aren't really at first to scope in. So I think that's a huge advantage.
Totally.
I assumed that the cannabis industry in Canada, there was all sorts of governance structures that would restrict a lot of things. That one is specifically wild. I'm excited to go down a bit of a rabbit hole when we're off here.
Yeah. It was a wild time. Every boardroom basically had the political entity, so who's responsible for selling, and they're just trying to figure it out because legislation has demanded that they do this, so they're just trying to figure it out and hold on. And then you've got Bay Street, which is essentially Canada's version of Wall Street for those who don't know. You've got all these suits and ties ready for investment because we've been told by Deloitte, Accenture, KPMG, EY, this is going to be a massive gold rush. You've got all of those people there, the Bay Street people. And then on the other side of the table, you've got all the people in tie-dye and t-shirts
all the hippies
who know about cannabis and are not criminals, but have industry knowledge. And just watching all of these people work together was honestly a case study in itself in psychology.
Yeah, really the merging of two completely different worlds that have never merged before, really, in the grand scheme of things. Very interesting. We could do a whole episode on your experience in the cannabis industry. It's a different show for a different time, but that's really interesting. Just for my knowledge, I know we've talked about this, but also for our listeners, how long have you guys been to market and operational so far?
At Symmetry?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're crossing the 19-month mark.
Nice. Okay.
So-
19 months. So in that time, when have you really been able to take a look at everything and been like, yeah, this is kind of pace and the rate that we want to be able to grow at? Going at the pace that we can to, we're hitting our markers that we wanted to. And what do you think really all clicked together to allow that to happen? What was the formula for you that you think facilitated the seasons that you were able to really grow the way you would want to?
Yeah, so we are... okay, I have to just kind of have a personal disclaimer. I'm the type of person that can work really, really hard on something and put a bunch of blood, sweat, and tears into it. And then someone says, how was that? Was that like, are you okay? And I'll be like, oh yeah, that was easy. What's the next thing? So personally, I always have trouble with this area of the conversation, but I'll try to make sure I just stay factual.
This might be a mental aid for you here. What would perhaps your co-founder say? How would your co-founder answer this question? Maybe that will...
Good.
Right? Perhaps
good suggestion. I like it. So I'd say Io's answer would be, we did it before and we did all of the planning and we tried to make sure we were pulling out use cases and thinking about where we wanted to go before even starting.
Mm-hmm.
So the conversation before Symmetry started probably took place 18 months. It became real before we actually quit our jobs. We started putting money away, thinking about savings, building out timelines and growth plans. And then we knew we wanted to grow very aggressively. Our target was, well, right now we've been around 19 months. We have 20 full-time employees. We have no debt. We are fully bootstrapped. We made our first $1 million. I think the 13th month was our $1 million revenue mark. We've been growing very rapidly. And we had a plan that was flexible enough to allow us to adapt to the market and shift and go hire 5 people in a month. And a month later, it was like they had always been working at Symmetry and that organism had blended. I'd say it's all about careful planning in the beginning and then tracking your progress towards your milestones or your planned markers, and then making sure if you're not meeting those, asking why. And more importantly, if not, how can we be creative? What can we do instead of just throwing up your hands and saying, it was this reason or tariffs or blankety blank? Instead of pointing at something and trying to explain it away, saying, okay, what can we do to adjust?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. Like coming at it always from a solution mindset. Always a better place to go other than when there is truly someone to blame. But that usually is not the case in these growth scenarios as well. And then on the other side of the coin, you mentioned wanting to grow aggressively, growing rapidly can come with a lot of challenges. A lot of people want to grow aggressively. Not all of those same people have the frameworks and structures in place to facilitate or house all of that growth. Whatever the opposite of a silver lining, was there any dirt
Yes.
lining around the aggressive growth, the quick scaling. Was there any working backwards you had to do to make sure that didn't overwhelm you or put you beyond your capacity?
Absolutely. One of the things I and I like to talk about is if we started this company in our 20s, we would have fallen flat on our face. One of the parts of the initial planning was really doing an assessment of ourselves. What have we learned in our careers? Realistically, who are we as leaders and what are our strengths and weaknesses, and make sure there are solutions in place for the weaknesses and make sure we're handling things that are our strengths. Of course, we can grow and learn and figure things out, but we want to focus on what we're best at. In terms of the rapid growth and the rapid scale and some of the things we've happened, I was very lucky to work with an extremely comprehensive HR legal structure at Shopify and have 45 team members with 45 different lives and 45 things that happened every single day. And so when we encountered some of those things over on our own business side, luckily it wasn't from scratch. To give you an example, it's, when someone has an illness or is sick, traditional approach is, get emotional. Oh, I need these things done. That person is failing me. It's like, absolutely not. One of the things we tell all of our team members, we want people at 80% for 8 years. We don't want them at 120% for 6 months.
That's a
So
really good way to looking at it too. Yeah.
absolutely.
Combats a lot of that hustle grind burnout culture that I think we're also very used to.
Yes.
If you're giving your 100% to your job, that means that there's a million other things in your life that are lacking. And if you're coming to work as a partial person, that's not sustainable at all.
Exactly. And I'm not Symmetry Commerce. I'm not going to make this company grow and be awesome. It's the team. It's the people that do the vast majority of the work. So my job, I always tell them, I work for you. How do I support you? How do I help grow you? How do I help keep this environment engaging and make sure that you're really, really jazzed to come and give it your all, be passionate, and then be the genius that I'm hoping you'll be, and then come up with ideas that I couldn't even imagine. And then I'll be super surprised and delighted. And hopefully there's rewards for both of us and we work together.
Yeah, the decentering of the founder is always really important, especially if, you're in the grand scheme of things, a pretty young company, and having a team of 20, that's actually quite big for just how long you guys have been around. How have you conceptualized your staffing? Is it always been a desire for you to have a lot of your elements internal, not really so much leveraging those external partnerships for operational activities, not leveraging contractors? What informed your choice to have that size of team that you do have and having everyone be permanent internal employees versus
Yeah.
any other kind of format?
So I think for us, it's taking a look at the industries. We implement Shopify solutions and rather technical Shopify solutions. So that means we retain a lot of context. We try to build our own IP. So by bringing in contractors to get in, do that work, it's a little bit misaligned with what we're building. We're going to start experimenting and using external resources, I'll say. But the majority is, okay, our mission is to build something unique. Our mission is to pivot when something comes down the line. The only way to do that is to have a flexible team that they have the context, they know that I'm going to be reaching out and saying, hey, I think we should switch this tooling and integrate more AI, and they know when to shoo me away and when to lean in. And so there's a lot of advantages that we've just made the decision that is what we want to do. Now, the second fun part is kind of blending into our previous conversation is our big hypothesis is the Canadian labor market. And I hate saying resources and labor, but the people in Canada are severely undervalued. We've got a ton of amazing people who have done amazing things, have amazing experiences and amazing work ethics, and they're not being utilized. So that is also one thing we want to contribute and give back is we want to make an amazing company where Canadians can come in, they can work and deliver what they want to do and give us a bit of their passion and then go home and live an amazing life as a result. And so that's one of the angles as well. We really want to provide an opportunity for people.
Yeah. I love Canada. I love Canadian founders too. I agree. We have so much value and skill and talent in Canada. Just the way North America is formatted, it's really not utilized and it's understood. Ultimately, outside of Freshly, I'm a stand-up comic as well.
Nice.
And so the Canadian talent and entertainment industry too is insane. We have such incredible artists. We have such incredible professionals and innovators. Nobody would ever know. Nobody would ever know. And there's a lack of opportunity for these folks as well, which is why we see so many people go down south to the States. Even right now with the stuff that's happening, lots of people going over to the UK. And anytime I hear anyone being like, we need to start building opportunities for these amazing people in Canada, I'm like, yes, because
Totally.
It's so true. It's such a
underutilized.
It's just misunderstood. And there's so much value in leveraging the market that we have here, the talent talent and the skills that we have here, the amazing education and the folks that come out of those institutions as well is incredible. I like the shift now, again, not to make things political, but with everything that's been happening in North America, a lot of people turning to local talent and skilled labor as a consequence of that, being like, well, I can't really operate or hire in the States like I used to. Let's turn internal and see what we have going on over here. Should it have taken that? Ideally not. But I mean, if that's what had to happen, then at least there's something good that's coming out of all of the craziness. Yeah, I love that. And I think that's honestly a secret weapon for Canadian companies right now too, is being able to be like, you know what, if we just really double down in the Canadian market and with Canadian staff and talent, I think we're going to go, really far.
I got very lucky again with my opportunity at Shopify. I had a global team. So I had employees in Poland, England, Germany, a few other European countries, lots in the States, actually the majority I'd say in the States. And so I had a couple of components of knowledge of bringing US talent, Canadian talent, and starting to think about the different aspects there. One of which being is 30% of your cost is medical insurance when you're hiring a US team member.
Yeah.
So you have to think about the salary and then you add 30% to it. Yeah, our taxes are a little high, but it is great to be able to just, when I'm injured, I go to a place and they just take care of me and then I go home. With that as well, that was actually to the very first topic of like, okay, the decision, where do we go? My American staff, 2 levels below me, brought home a salary that was higher than mine. So the question started to become, okay, do I move to the States where I can go command more money, pay less taxes? Financially, it is the right decision. But then again, instead of pointing at something, sit down with pen and a paper and say, okay, how do I actually get those benefits where I want to be? Start your own company. Get US clients to pay you in US dollars. That comes over. Keep your costs in Canadian. I hope no one is listening. There are no tariffs on services, which is, I hope that stays.
Yeah. We're like, is this going to be real by the time this episode goes out? I don't know.
Yeah.
Hopefully it will be. Let's put it into the universe. It will be. Yeah.
Perfect. And so it's just, all these different elements where it's, you've got just this value here in the country that is being underutilized. And I hope the winds of change blow in the right direction and Canada steps up and seizes all the opportunities in front of it.
Hell yeah. I love that. I feel so patriotic right now. It's great.
Red shirt today.
But I will say, I think anytime that there's a shift in status quo on the scale that is this large, it really just, you kind of like pull the rock and then all of the bugs start running. You know what I mean? Everyone's just like, hey, we have to do things different. We need to kind of continue and facilitate our growth and keep things going despite perhaps one of our largest players or a large portion of our team not operating the way it used to. And I've seen such a shift, specifically with Canadian companies and Canadian founders, to really double down in the Canadian setting. And that's really exciting to see. I'm really looking forward to what the next 5-10 years look like and how the tide turns long term with the shifts that are happening right now. We're coming up to the end here, but I do want to take a couple of seconds to look to the future and really understand what you guys are working towards. What's the next growth metric you're looking to hit? Where's the next platform you're looking to reach? I know we've talked about wanting to grow aggressively, having been able to scale so quickly so far. Is that a pace you're looking to keep up? Are you looking to amp that up, or are you looking to slow down when you're planning for the next phase? What is that looking like for you guys?
Yeah, so we're lucky in the fact that both my co-founder and I are engineers. We're very familiar with building mathematical models and trends. Not to say we have some magical Excel sheet that tells us all these things, but we don't plan for steady growth, either linear or exponential. We plan for ebbs and flows. Right now, right around that 20-person mark, I remember building my team out to this size. This is the appropriate time for us to slow down a bit. It's no longer everyone get together in a room and figure out this problem. It's now, okay, couple people who have been through this a couple times, develop a really great process, get feedback from the team, iterate, make it better, and then monitor the performance of that process. So for us to do that shift, it means a very different job for me tomorrow than it is today. What I predict, to answer your question, is it's going to be a slowdown probably for the next quarter or two as we carefully hire new roles in new departments and be very careful building those out. We'd be very careful building out our processes and solidifying how we deliver to our clients to make sure what we think is good, our clients are actually enjoying very much. And then from there, we'll be able to replicate, build more people, bring in more technologies to facilitate. So that's where I then see the jump. If you were to draw a trend line, I'd say we're aiming to double in the next year again, and we're trying to double every year, but it's not going to be a nice straight line. It's going to be a slowdown, probably January, February, March, and then 2.4x growth month over month after that. That's the plan.
Definitely. Is there any kind of activities you're going to be introducing, new strategies you'll be introducing for to kind of do that 2x leap? Or will that just hopefully be what happens based on your intentionally paced hiring and growth at the slower season?
So it's funny you mentioned that. The big thing on our mind, we've started to talk to private equity companies that have acquired businesses like ours. We're starting to talk to other business owners like ours, like yourselves. And the big glaring but opportunity that we're missing is retainers, long-term engagements with your clients. Our original hypothesis was, hey, we'll help get you on Shopify. We'll take those really complex business requirements. We'll set you up and then be well. Go on, find someone to help you continue to grow and continue to build. Right now, we've started to hit the next echelon of business. We call it mid-market, which is your $20 to $50 million a year brands. We have 100% sign-on rate to retainers, and we just do it because we want to continue, but we have no formalization around it. We don't pursue it. We don't sell it. So that's going to be a big opportunity, is now thinking about helping our clients grow long-term instead of just let's get you over to Shopify, get you an amazing foundation of technology, and then facilitate introductions for growth.
I love that. That's great. Okay, well, the very last point here, let folks know how to find you, where to reach out, that type of stuff. Make it as easy for people as possible.
Nice. So I'd say symmetrycommerce.com, we do have the contact form, but if you're looking to get a hold of us, solutions@symmetrycommerce.com. That goes right to my inbox, right to my co-founder's inbox. So anyone looking for any information, essentially our hope is we don't try to sell our services. We just try to do free consultations, and hopefully you enjoyed our ideas so much that you'd like us to actually implement. If anyone wants to know anything about Shopify, how it works, especially on B2B side, complex implementations, integrations to ERPs, accounting systems, fulfillment systems, just hit us up at solutions@symmetrycommerce.com, or you'll see us at one of the various trade shows that we're starting to attend and go to, and make sure you reach out on LinkedIn.
Awesome. And for us over here, be sure to follow along, subscribe to our YouTube channel for more CTRL ALT GAB episodes. If you have any questions, if you're a prospective founder, if you're a founder yourself, you're interested in joining the show, we have a form on our website as well at freshly-press.ca. Thank you so much, Mike, for joining us today. It's been so great to chat with you about your experience and learning about all things Symmetry Commerce and what you guys are doing over there. I'm excited to see what is next for you.
Thanks so much, Gabrielle.
Take care, everybody. We'll catch you next time. Thank you for listening to the CTRL ALT GAB podcast. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one.